that quiet. We will call the meeting to order. This is the regular meeting of Council, Municipality of Swan Valley West, held in Council Chambers at 216 Main Street West, Swan, Manitoba, this 26th day of September. No, we're gonna work on that. This 24th day of October 2023 at 7 p.m. Present this evening, myself, Reeve, Gade, Councillors Burick, Blosha, Kushniryk, McGregor, Zbirun, Interim CAO Pat Ellingson, our videographer Jeremy Bergen's here. We have one person joining us on the telephone, and I see one person in the gallery as well tonight. Very nice to see some people out. We'll head right to 1.2 because we do have a member of council away tonight. Be it resolved that the notice of absence submitted by Councillor Neely regarding the regular meeting of council held this 24th day of October 2023 shall be accepted as received. Is there a mover? Councillor Kushniryk, and someone to second the resolution? Councillor Burick. Any discussion? Those in favour? That's carried. Number 2, adopting the agenda. Be it resolved the agenda for the regular meeting of council held this 24th day of October 2023 shall be adopted as presented. Is there a mover? Councillor Kushniryk, and someone to second the resolution? Councillor Blosha. Does anyone have changes, additions, or deletions to the agenda they wish to propose? Hearing nothing, we'll call the question. Those in favour? That too is carried. We're moving to number 3 tonight, the minutes. Be it resolved that the minutes of the regular council meeting held on Tuesday, October 10th, 2023 be adopted as presented. Is there a mover? Councillor Zbirun, and a seconder, please. Councillor McGregor. I believe council had a chance to look at these minutes a few minutes before the meeting. So is there any changes, errors, or omissions that you noted when you were taking a look? Hearing nothing, we'll call the question. Those in favour? That's carried. General business was pretty light tonight, so we'll head into financial items. 5.1, checks. Be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West hereby approves the following payments. General checks number 19245 to 19285 in the amount of $2,368,974.99. Is there a mover? Councillor Kushniryk, and someone to second the resolution. Councillor Zbirun. In the check folder tonight, you may notice the $1 million part. Most of that relates to the school division. That's the 2 of their payments, representing 71% or so of what we have to give them for this taxation year. Other checks of note: the Cook Brothers check for $19,733. That represents both some hauling of gravel, but also the crushing of that same gravel. So that's the end of the gravel now for anything that was hauled this year. There'll be some additional crushing yet to come, but that is a little higher than normal because the crushing fees for that particular gravel are part of the hauling invoice there. The rest of these are fairly straightforward. Where it says Swan Valley Health, that is the medical recruitment funding for last year and this year being caught up. You'll see there's a few on here. Bozeman Cemetery, Swan Valley Museum, there's some grant payouts there from what was budgeted by council. Valley Water and Hydrovac, I assume that is the sewer flushing. Yep. Questions on any of the rest of the checks from anyone tonight?
19249?
249, ABC Fire and Safety?
Mm-hmm.
This is the batteries for
the radios and the hydro testing that they are required to do every year. There was 8, I think.
So this is Bonito Fire.
Yep.
Okay, that's what I was wondering.
SCBA testing.
Yep.
Yeah. 2 batteries. Batteries are $574 each. And then the testing is $33 a pop. $10 each for visual inspection for a couple of them, and a ball valve for $275, which I assume was to fix one of them. Councillor Burick, you had your hand up too.
19265.
265, Minister of Finance. That is $1,800 for Sarah Lake Road, ticket 151248804.
Right.
That's the one we pled guilty to a while back and had a reduced fine.
Okay, is that
due
just,
December 10th.
was there just one ticket? Is that the only one, or is there two?
That's the only one we pled guilty to. We were not allowed to plead guilty to the other one. Court is on November 9th at 10 a.m. if you wish to come watch.
Okay,
We're holding a trial then.
a trial.
Yes, we get to go to trial in a second.
I'll back you up. I'll be there to support you.
Just don't get me arrested, okay?
So November 9th, you said?
I believe, yeah, I think it's November 9th, 10 a.m. Swan River
It's
Courthouse.
Thursday.
I'm certainly looking forward to it. Of all the things you sent me to do, this will be the most entertaining yet, that you're sending me to court to trial.
Yeah, yeah.
Any other checks with questions tonight? Okay, hearing none. If you do develop questions later on, of course, you're always welcome to call the CIO. She'd love to explain any of them to you. Hearing no questions though, we will call the question on the resolution. Those in favor? That is carried. I think I may even walk that solution check over there tomorrow. It just seems wrong to mail that. 5.2, payroll checks. Be it resolved that Council of the Municipality of Swan West hereby approves the following payments. Payroll payments number 202 to 214, the amount of $20,868.28. Is there a mover? Councillor Blosha, someone to second the resolution. Councillor Kushniryk scratched his head, thank you. There's an attached copy here that only council can see of those payroll checks, a summary of them anyway. Is there any questions or discussion you want to hold on those in open council? Or anything you wish to delay it and talk about in camera first? Everybody good? Okay, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. 5.3, the part that council tends to like best. Be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West hereby approves the following payments. Indemnities for September number 4523 to 4531, the amount of $9,429.83. Is there someone who would like to move the resolution? Councillor Burick. Would anyone care to second the resolution? Councillor Zbirun. A copy of all of the indemnity sheets are there. They're also available on the public agenda on the website for people who want to go take a look at them. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. Financial report. Be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West hereby receives a financial statement for the period ending October 23rd, 2023 as presented. Is there a mover? Councillor Kushniryk, someone to second the resolution. Councillor McGregor. Let's start off. Does anyone have discussion? I have some points I'd like to make, but let's go with anybody else first. It's pretty quiet, so I was going to run through a few things here. I printed out a copy and highlighted some stuff. So under general administration, what's updated on this from last time is the wages are now all current in here. So any money we have spent, plus a little bit we haven't, is now showing in this report. So these are accurate numbers to tonight as we approve those checks. Admin salaries, we're currently way under budget. We've got $195,000 surplus there. Certainly we're going to use some of that yet, but that relates to how few staff we've had in the front office. So there's some savings we're picking up there. Under transportation services, a couple pages in, Swan River operator wages are there now. We're more than halfway through the year, but we're only about halfway through the budget for that so far as yet. So there'll likely be a slight surplus there as well as we end the year. Bonito operator wages, you're showing a deficit right now, but that's due to coding. So some of that should have been jigged around and we'll get that fixed up. The expenses are real, it's just the line it's showing on isn't the right line. On the next page, equipment fuel for Swan River. It too is showing a surplus of roughly half of the budget, but we're going into fall, so we will be using more fuel yet, but it looks like there'll be a slight surplus there as well, which would relate to lower fuel costs primarily from what we thought may happen this summer. And certainly the government's talking about removing 14 cents a litre fuel tax on our fuel, which may further help that. Road graveling, haul and apply, supply crushing. Some of those were over by 71,000 on hauling and applying, so we've spent 421,000 on that already this year. which is more than we had expected. Supply and crushing. Supply, there's some coating issues there too. There's some things that got into gravel pits which should have been taken up to supply. We'll get them moved over. The crushing is, as far as I know, accurate, but there's still crushing occurring, so it's expected we will spend the rest of that money there. Road maintenance, we're over by 27,000 on contracted road maintenance. The contracted ditching, that's primarily relates to the Sarah Lake Road event that's ongoing. I spoke to management of that earlier today. They advised that we will be receiving a progress invoice. I asked for one to be here before we go to court because it relates to that court case, and I would like to take that invoice to court with me as evidence of what this has cost. From what I understood today, we haven't seen the invoice. It was hopeful that it was going to remain within budget, which we had discussed here previously that might go over, but at this particular moment, we might actually be within that budget, which would be nice. Emergency snow clearing, we have some surplus in there yet. Chances are we won't do that yet this fall unless things get really silly, so hopefully there's a little surplus coming there. The air transport services on the next page, there's this fairly substantial surplus there. We had budgeted 80,000. We only ended up paying about 41,000, so there's about 39,000 surplus from the airport commission this year because they didn't charge as much as we thought they would. So there's a little bit there. Also, physician recruitment, you'll note that's now been paid out. That was in those checks earlier, and there's a $3,700 surplus on that because we had budgeted some rough numbers and the exact census numbers were here. It was a little bit lower than we anticipated. And on the second to last page under fiscal services, you'll see the foundation levy and Swan Valley 35 levy, both for education. And you'll note those numbers are higher than the checks we've paid out so far. So those numbers represent the actual amount we pay this year because it's been loaded already into the system. We've only paid some of it, but it's all charged here already. So there'll be another check go to the school division, I believe in January is the next one.
No, the end of November.
Okay, end of November.
And then the final one has to be in January.
There you go. So those last little bits will go through, but those numbers already represent that. Because of the way the accounting system deals with the taxes going to the other entity. Overall, we found some mistakes in here for some things that hadn't been correctly entered from our financial plan that we passed, but it's getting to be fairly accurate now that at current we have a surplus of $2.2 million, but of that, we have shared services hasn't been paid out for 2023. That's budgeted for about $414,000. We still have wages and fuel. So there's obviously some expenses coming, but at the moment, it appears there will be at least a small surplus at the end of the year if we maintain our current spending habits. Questions, comments, discussion? We're watching very closely to try and make sure that we don't know in January what we have for surplus. We're trying to have that forecast so in November we're here discussing what we want to do if there is more surplus than we expected to make a plan for it. Hearing nothing, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. Also under financial is a request for an extension to our Public Utilities Board submission. It's due November 1st and does not appear we will be done in time. Whereas the Public Utility Board requires a water and wastewater rate review, and whereas the Council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West is in the process of preparing the review in order to submit an application for final rates to replace order number 4923, interim water and wastewater rates. And whereas the review will not be finalized by November 1st, 2023, therefore be it resolved the Council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West requests an extension to December 6th, 2023. Is there someone to move the resolution? Councillor Kushniryk, and someone to second the resolution. Councillor Zbirun. So I can speak a little further to that. Staff are working on getting the numbers. We need to complete that study. We know the billing amounts, that's good. What we need to know now is just the number of gallons used. So we're going to get that out of the computer yet. We have the formulas, the templates, everything from when we submitted the interim study. So we just have to plug all those numbers in, plug the current expenses in. Given the climate with Public Utilities Board and where we've been at with that application, I think it would probably be wise for us to be holding a public hearing in Benito before we submit. So we invite the folks in to take a look at what we're submitting and explain it to them, to try and head off any more complaints coming about the actual application. I think we could probably answer a lot of that at the hearing and avoid perhaps a very expensive Public Utilities Board hearing, which we would have to pay for. Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That's carried. We're moving to discussion, 6.1, ditch survey. Council may recall discussing this particular ditch. This is the one just to the north of Crestview Corner. So Watershed has been out and has surveyed the levels. The full report is attached here for you. If you find it difficult to read, good, because I did too. If you can read this easily, you should give me some lessons on what this says, because it took a while to get it. We had to go in and call and get some help with it. Essentially what this is showing, the question was, should the water run north to the river or should it run south? The answer is it should run south. It could be made to go either way because it's a fairly flat area, but it should go to the south. The problem with it going to the south is there is a pipe missing in one of those two approaches, so the water is pooling instead of running, and then where the water wants to cross the road, no pipe is found. The thought is, it looks like there should be one there. We haven't yet taken a metal detector out to see if it just got buried, but I think that's probably going to happen here, is go see if by chance there's a pipe that is just so covered up it's not visible to the naked eye. Because it looks like there's a natural run there that water should go to. It should cross the road, carry on down the run and carry on. But there's no pipe, no working pipe at least. So the water, when it does go there, just creates a huge big puddle and doesn't end up anywhere. If there is a pipe, we would of course be able to fix it without a permit. If there's not a pipe, this is going to have to go for permitting. Was this Councillor Neely was most involved in this, I think? So, yeah. We'll certainly make sure he sees a copy of this, and we'll probably need some further discussion on it here later on, but obviously the resident there is looking for a solution that involves less flooding. So this is a step in the right direction. Though, if we do need to permit, we have to have this study done, so it's done now. Any other discussion on that ditch survey? Can we bring it back when Councillor Neely is here? We'll get a little more discussion as well then. 6.2, water control works. This is a license for a water control work to be constructed in 2015. The resident's name is on it, which is why it's not available publicly at this time. If people are really interested in it, they can ask the office for a copy and we'll remove the name. But what we're looking at here, from what we understand from the resident, is that the work wasn't done. So they were in today wondering if we have intention of maybe doing it at some point. My intention is just to refer this to Public Works to go take a look at it. But I thought council should maybe see it, just in case there was some history here we didn't know. If anyone can fill in some blanks of why there was a license but it wasn't done, or any details, I guess, is what we're looking for from council.
I think this has been ongoing since what, 2015.
Yeah. I know it's been causing some issues with flooding because it's not cleaned out.
And I think it's quite it's about a mile long.
Yeah.
And I think two machines two graders would fix it up no time at all. Because it's level, there's no trees, there's no brush, it's just to clean out the ditch. And because I think the water, instead of running down the ditch straight east, it runs across the field on an angle to the northeast and breaks out in a few places. I think that's a simple thing, but it just has to be done.
Okay. So we'll send this over to Public Works. If it really is that easy and simple, it will probably just happen. But if there's some reason for it to come back to council, you'll see it reappear here shortly. Anything else on that? We'll move to 6.3, the tire-derived aggregate. If you recall, we had that gentleman here a little while ago talking about tire-derived aggregate, which is essentially shredding used tires and then using that for roads that are frost boils, essentially. So the way that works is you dig the road out, you put the aggregate in, that's basically chunks of rubber. That stabilizes the road, but also keeps the frost from getting down lower, so you don't get the water coming up. And they say it works fairly well. They were curious if we were interested in hosting a site for that, and having them shred tires here. There's no particular cost to us, and we end up with a pile of tire material we can use for projects like that. We said that night we would come back and discuss it again a little more and decide what we wanted to do. So it's back on the agenda tonight. What's council's thoughts on that? Is it something we're interested in, or do we want to pass?
They're gonna grind this at the
I don't think we have a spot picked yet. They're hoping to have it someplace where there's not a primary fuel source. So they don't want it too near something else that would burn. Because tires don't burn very well if it's just tires, but if there's something else there, right?
Yeah.
They were suggesting a gravel pit would be an ideal spot for it, which certainly we have some of those kicking around. And this would be a multi-year project. Like, they may not grind for a year or two before they have enough tires gathered up. And then once it was ground, it's not like it has to be used in a certain time frame either. It's essentially just a stockpile. Obviously, you don't want to leave it there forever because you don't want somebody to light it on fire.
Yeah,
And have that disaster. But for the most part, this would be a 2 to 3 to 4 year type deal by the time there was a pile of it there for us to use.
So basically, do we have to find the tires or?
From what we understand, if we're interested, we say yes, we're interested. We would mutually select the best place for it, and it would just happen, and they'd call us when there was some ready to go.
Why not then? What do you guys think?
Councillor Burick, what say you?
What tires?
Councillor Blosha, do you have thoughts?
I just want to know how if we're gonna be able to use it. We don't have the right equipment to use it, no?
The only thing we're missing would be a way to pack it likely. And he kind of said you could drive over with a grader, but a real packer might be better. And we do have a couple pull-behind packers, which would probably do it. And someplace our equipment records show that we have a sheep's foot packer.
Somewhere, yeah,
But
sure.
we're not currently able to locate it. But it can't be gone, like, can it really be gone forever? It's gotta be someplace. It's just a matter of figuring out where it was last used.
It's gotta be in the valley somewhere.
It's gotta be. That's the appropriate packer for it, if we can ever figure out where it is. And we know where it was last used, but we haven't immediately found it when we went looking there. So we're going to continue to look, although if anyone watching a video has seen one lately, that looks like no one's come to claim it in the last year or so, if they could let us know where they saw it, that would certainly be helpful in reclaiming it. Should we explore it further with them?
I think so.
I see a few people sort of nodding around the table, so we'll keep exploring.
Yeah.
I suspect there'll be a formal agreement. We'll come back to council before this happens, so we have another shot at it before you just have a pile of shredded tires. But I think I see enough interest, we'll talk some more to them. Okay. Moving on to 6.4, this was brought up from, believe it or not, we have done some invoicing review just to look through what we're spending money on, the things that come for invoices all the time. So this came up for review by council, and there's no suggestion here, particularly one way or the other. One of the things we're doing right now is the Star and Times has a local, support local page. It shows up every couple of weeks in the paper, and we have an advertisement in there that has the Swan Valley West logo and says basically shop local, support local. I'm not entirely sure of the wording, but I think we've all seen it at some point here, the paper that comes. The question was, do we wish to continue that?
Your invoice monthly $50.
It's $50 a month. The question was posed to me one morning and I said, let's have council decide. Is anybody opposed to spending the money? Is anybody desperately in favor of spending the money? Does anyone have an opinion at all about spending the money?
So, okay, getting back to the advertising, what does it advertise again?
Support local.
Yeah, so there's an ad page in the Star and Times. It's a full page. Several businesses have their logos there and little messages from them, including one from Swan Valley West that basically says support local. I would think if we're going to continue to do it, we should change the ad copy historically we've been trying to put something in there with our phone number, or maybe the phone numbers of the councillors, depending on space, so that it serves some purpose other than just saying our logo.
Yeah,
You know, certainly the more we have people knowing how to contact us with questions and concerns, the better. So if we're going to do it, certainly that would be a good spot to put that sort of information into the advertisement. Which is similar to what you see the province doing. You see an MLA advertised. Usually their ad says something like, I'm the MLA, and to contact me, call this number. And then they consider that, kind of outreach to the constituents. So we don't have a resolution here to change it. So if you're wanting a change to doing it, from my understanding, it just continues on unless we change our mind. So does anyone want to propose a resolution to stop doing it?
no, I'd say change.
Okay, so we'll change the copy,
Yeah,
but we'll leave it going. That's
I think so.
good with everybody?
yeah.
Okay, so if we could have a note for that, please. Correspondence tonight is very blank as well, so we'll move to number 8, unfinished business. The Border Road project. So let's discuss for a moment before we bring a resolution here. This is Road 174. We've spoken about it 2 or 3 times at council. Attached to this is a quote for it. I spoke to Watershed a week or 2 back on this. They may be able to do this yet this year. That was their original hope. Originally they said they wouldn't have time. It would be spring. But now they think, well, they might actually have time. So they're looking for approval on this so that they can go ahead with it if time allows. If not, it will have to be next year. They estimate a $30,000 cost, plus or minus 15%, a 60-40 split between Watershed and Swan Valley West. So that would leave us that $18,000. Livingston said they were willing to share 50-50, which would make the Livingston share $9,000 and our share $9,000. We don't yet have an agreement with Livingston on that, but we assume that they're good for the money. Worst case, we pay the whole $18,000 if for some reason that didn't come through. But it is the border road, and typically we share the costs on it. So we have a resolution prepared tonight to approve that. If that's good with folks, we'll bring it. Whereas the municipality of Swan Valley West has had discussions with the arm of Livingston regarding repairs to Road 174 between Road 219 and Road 220 to reshape the stream bank in order to stabilize and prevent further erosion. Whereas the Swan Lake Watershed has provided contractor estimates for the work required and has agreed to partner with the municipality of Swan Valley West on a 40-60 share, and the arm of Livingston has indicated they would share the cost of the municipality 50-50, therefore be it resolved that we do approve the project. Someone to move the resolution. Councillor Burick. Someone to second. Councillor McGregor. Any further discussion on this?
I think he even said they could do it cheaper too. This is an estimate that on paper, but I think Eddie said he could do it cheaper.
And there was an opportunity for Swan Valley West to provide some of the materials and labor too, which would also help. So this should be, if anything, a little high.
Yeah.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. 8.2, Fire Department Inventory. This is... Did it come back?
No, but we were told that we could pick it up.
So, there has been obviously ongoing work with the new Swan Valley Fire Department and the Manitoba Fire Department. And so there's been some discussion ongoing about the particular location of some of the inventory that we show should be at the fire department. There was perhaps a belief, I think, and some confusion. If you'll recall, there was some materials delivered since we made changes to Thunder West. And those materials were likely to be used by the video department. I believe the thought here was Benito had received the materials, specifically 3 turnout suits to the tune of about $7,800. In doing inventory, as this is all working through, Benito did not have them. They assumed they were at Swan River. Swan River did not have them either. So 3 sets of turnout gear were missing. We did go back to the manufacturer to inquire what happened, because we paid the bill. Where is this material? It was shipped and it was received. The materials were not received by either municipality. They were received by a private business located at 800 Centennial Drive South in Swan River, which signed for the materials, and they were never seen again. So discussions have been ongoing with the proprietor of that business as to where the materials may be now. And we did provide a deadline for those materials being returned to Swan Valley West, failing which it was my intention to ask Council's permission tonight to take legal action to retrieve them. However, I'm pleased to share that it appears to have simply been a misunderstanding. We were informed earlier this week that the business owner was unaware he'd received the materials, and until he was holding a garage sale just a few days ago, hadn't realized they were there. But when holding the garage sale, had found them and had intended to call us to tell us they were there. So we do now know they're there, and I understand they weren't returned by our deadline, but we have now been told we can come and pick them up. So we will find someone to go and pick up the materials and return them to a fire department. And that should resolve that saga. Any further discussion on that? If not, we'll move to section 9, committee reports, and not only reports, but also communication. So certainly you're welcome to share more than just committees and ask questions. It's a great time for us to speak and review what's been going on. We'll start with Councillor McGregor.
Nothing to report.
Councillor Zbirun.
Yeah, I went to a signing and had a little meeting after that, and I'm not gonna go into, because I imagine you're gonna touch on it a little bit.
You're welcome to do it, I don't have to.
That's about it for me.
Councillor Burick.
I attended a Swan Lake Watershed Conservation District meeting, and we haven't had one since June. And we just had a quorum, just had enough to have a meeting that night, and it just mainly went through the financial part of it, paying the accounts and that, but it was a very short meeting. There was a planning district meeting. I didn't attend it because I didn't get notification of it, so hopefully it's fixed up, that I will from now on.
I believe they're going to text you from now on as well.
That's good, you know,
Just to make sure you get.
I do get texts from the watershed as well, yeah, it's a good thing. Yeah,
Anything else?
good, no, that's it.
Councillor Blosha.
I didn't have any committee meetings. I did have some calls for requests for some work to be done. I redirected that to the office so that it goes through the right channel. And that was about it.
Excellent, thank you. Councillor Kushniryk.
Just an LUD meeting, fairly basic stuff on the LUD again. Pat has a list on that, and a fire board meeting as well, which we'll pass along to you.
Before you get to the off the hot seat, at the LUD meeting, in going through the budget, the LUD had indicated that they wish to use $50,000 of reserves towards a garbage truck this year. Is there any movement on that from them?
Every now and then we discuss going and looking. There's not a lot out there. Contacted one of the bigger outfits in Winnipeg. They said they scrapped theirs. We'll keep looking before the year end.
Okay, very good. Anything else? Okay. So as rumored, there was a fire board meeting. There was also a signing of the fire board agreement that was held at the fire hall in Swan River, the downtown one. We had the fire commissioner was out. So he actually witnessed the Reeve and the mayor sign the agreement, which I thought was quite nice. This represents the 3rd fire board in the province of Manitoba. So it's a fairly new thing, but is what the province is moving to. The fire commissioner indicated that he and his staff were interested in helping in any way they could as the board is established, and we worked through the bylaws and the policies. They also asked a favor that not only if they could help, but that they could be part of it in any case, because they wish to use the fire board as an example for how other communities can do it as well. So they want to be involved in the whole process. They essentially have a guidebook for the next place that does this without having to reinvent the wheel. So that was quite positive. We had a lot of firefighters out that night. We had a lot of dignitaries out from various councils. It was good to see everyone there. We had some cake. The mayor and I got to be very friendly that night. We jointly cut the cake. My hand on his,
Oh my.
gliding that knife through the cake, just like an old married couple. There's photos of it, don't worry.
It was as awkward as it sounds.
I did have a moment to bend the fire commissioner's ear about the Benito Fire Hall. He had never been there. So we discussed it for a bit. We discussed the grant that we have in for it. He does know the people that are making the decision on that grant. So I said, wouldn't it be good if you knew why we need a fire hall? So we were able to arrange for him to visit the Benito Fire Hall the next morning before he left town. So he's taken a tour of the hall to see the reasons why it needs upgrading, including crawling through a truck to access the far side of the hall, which was perhaps good for him to get to see all that. So I think that, irrespective of everything else, that alone, having the fire commissioner of the province go and see that hall and understand what's there, was worth, the trip was worth everything we've done there, because it's so important for him to see and understand that. So I'm sure he'll take that message back, which is good. I had some of the Swan River firefighters come up to me after the official ceremony to express their gratitude for what we have done, specifically with the idea that we've made a promise to the firefighters that this will never happen again. We will not play politics with fire, and they're very appreciative of that. I think everybody is. So that was nice. They specifically mentioned it, so I thought I should pass that along. Shortly thereafter, we retired to the town office for a fire board meeting. So the fire board met. We passed a few initial resolutions. We appointed an interim fire chief. Mr. Fedorchuk will fill that role until we're able to hire a full-time fire chief. We also approved an advertisement for a full-time fire chief, which is running now. That competition closes shortly. The fire board will then be conducting interviews. I can share that there are several applicants. Some of them are local and some of them are out of province. So there'll be a wide talent pool to select from. The fire board was very clear that they would be selecting based on merit from all of the applicants. It was not a matter of simply choosing who was fire chief before to continue on. The thought was that it should be looked at. If by chance it's a different person than the existing fire chief, the town has committed to the severance package for their existing chief. So that won't be a fire board issue, that's a town issue if somebody else is selected by the board. So there's no pressure on the board of, oh, what would this cost to not continue with that job? The board gets to make a decision entirely on their own, which is good. Outside of that, earlier today I had a meeting with the other heads of council from the valley. It was a fairly lengthy meeting. I think we ran 2 hours today on that. We discussed several things. One of them was medical recruitment. We're all part of that committee anyway, so we certainly discussed it for a while. And the decision of the group was that the 4 councils are requesting a meeting with the new Minister of Health to be held at AMM. The 4 heads of councils will attend that meeting to discuss medical recruitment, share what we do now, and ask questions about what the plan is in the province now that we've had a change of government. We also agreed, as the heads of council, to the 4 of us request a meeting with the Minister of Justice from Manitoba, who's also new, obviously, to discuss a general investigative section assignment for the Swan Valley. We further discussed that, and we'll probably have to pick some of that up in camera, but there was generalized agreement between the 4 heads of council to present an idea at each of our respective next meetings. So we'll hear it tonight, the town will hear it tonight, Mountain will hear it tomorrow, Minnetonka's I think is a week from now, but that is definitely in the beginning stages of a negotiation, but it involves cost sharing for that police protection. So we'll discuss that in camera. We discussed shared services briefly this afternoon. I asked for the other heads of council to chime in on what they're doing for shared services, both with the town and with others. So we specifically discussed landfills, pools, and arenas as far as shared services go. And later tonight, when we're in camera, we will be polling council for your ideas for a new shared services contract. I can share that as per council's direction, earlier, prior to this meeting, we did serve notice to the town of Swan River that the municipality of Swan Valley West is withdrawing from the current shared services agreement with the town, which we are required to provide 90 days notice on that. That notice has been given. We did indicate in that notice that we are certainly willing to negotiate a new agreement, and we've asked the town to provide some dates. Failing the negotiation of a new agreement, that agreement will end in 89 days from today. But it's our intention to negotiate something, and we'll be discussing that at length tonight in camera to try and figure out what it is we want and what changes we want to see. But I think everybody's aware there will be changes there. I met a little bit with the library board. The next official meeting is coming up next week, but there's been some definite ongoing issues at the library. Those are not as bad as they sound. It sounds horrible when I say, oh, there's ongoing issues, but we're functioning without a head librarian, so the board's taking on a lot of that role. We've now trained one of the board members how to do payroll, so they're doing payroll, so they're not paying for that as an outside service. We're trying to cut those costs still with the idea of perhaps breaking even on the year instead of ending up with a loss. We're also starting the budgeting process. That'll be dealt with next week some more, with the intention of bringing budgets to both councils January at the latest, ideally perhaps still in December. So the budgets are actually on time this year for the library. So work continues on that. Sarah Lake Road, I alluded to that a little earlier when we were looking at some of the financial documents. My understanding is that the work there is now substantively complete, but is not completely done. Today, I believe they're not working because of the precipitation. There was enough black dirt at the site that we did not have to purchase or haul any black dirt to the site. We were able to use existing black dirt. That has now been seeded as well, which is required. We have not yet applied straw to it, but we're going to apply straw yet this year. The one thing that may not happen is the pipe across the road has to be dug out and replaced. That road, as you can imagine, is a very busy road and there's no detour available. So we're going to see if it's possible to do that yet this year. But if we can't find a day that we can shut the road down without greatly impacting the users of the road, it will have to wait until next year. So we've explored that option with the licensing body already for a possible extension to completing that part of the project into next year when we can get time on the road. Otherwise, the riprap is being installed in the ditch, so that will be complete yet this year before runoff next year. And I have requested an invoice is generated to all work done to the end of October. As you know, we haven't seen an invoice yet. I have heard rumblings of what that invoice might be, and if that is accurate, it is coming into budget. So that is good news. We have been a little worried about that. We had a planning district meeting. At that meeting, we selected a vendor to create the new planning document for the valley, which we all share, the 4 municipalities. It will be done in a 1-week marathon session. That's coming up November 13th to the 15th. And that will see a meeting of the planning district board a couple times that week, but there's also some of those meetings during the day which municipal staff will need to attend. So those invitations are going out now. The draft agendas are being sent out this afternoon with the intention of getting this new document created. This document was cost shared through the Building Communities grant. They paid for half. The other municipalities have each paid their share of it, and our money is, I believe, in the checks tonight. So that will get done. We're required to update that document each 5 years, and this document is now 20 years old. So this will be the first update in 20 years. What this does do, though, from now on, it will be an electronic document, and planning district will hold the copyright to it, which means the 5-year updates can be done by staff without having to hire a consultant, which should save money in the long term. So, I believe that captures much of what's gone on. There is a rather pressing HR matter we will take up in camera that I can't share with you tonight, but at least not until we're in camera. Any questions or comments on any of that? All right. That wraps up everything except for our in-camera session. Tonight we'll be discussing shared services and purchase services. We have an HR matter. I believe we have a couple public works concerns that must be in camera as well. Otherwise though, does anybody else have anything that we can do in the public portion of the meeting? Okay, hearing nothing, we're going to call a recess for 10 minutes or so. When we come back, we'll be moving in camera. Yes,
Is the audience allowed to ask questions?
we're
I'm not
recessed, so
taking
go
half
for
an hour or anything.
it. Oh, yeah, go for it.
Do you have a full count for operators right now?
At this particular moment, yes.
And will you have for the winter?
We believe so. We have extra right now. There's one that may or may not retire. We don't know when that retirement date is. They haven't said. If they do retire, if one person leaves, we're still good.
Okay,
If 2 or 3 were to retire all at the same time, we would not have a full complement.
I was just wondering, because it's sure scarce to see operators west of the golf course summit. They're very scarce out there. All the roads south of the ditch road, particularly 162 right through to 83, disaster. It's a disaster right now. If you don't believe me, drive that way. Don't take a small car.
There have been struggles.
You'll destroy it. I don't know why this is happening. Do you?
There was not a full staff until
More recently, a couple weeks ago.
a couple weeks ago. I just
Yeah.
want that, like, he says there's a full staff, but there was not then.
No.
Because we sure never seen graders out there. All those roads south of the ditch road just got beat to snot.
We have 2 new operators. One joined us last week, and one joined us 3 weeks ago.
Unless we just seen a grader, and I haven't personally, but unless there's been one on road 164 recently, it only was graded once late spring and hadn't seen a grader since. There's more stuff growing on the shoulder than there is in the ditch. Like, that's not acceptable by any means.
I agree.
5 machines working now or no?
We've had a couple days of 5 machines, typically 4. We've been out the last week. We spent a bunch of time at the Durban landfill doing the capping that's required before it snows. But we have had most of the days 4 machines out. A couple days we've had 5 the last couple weeks.
163 was just done, that's why I say maybe they did 164 and I haven't had a chance to see it.
They were requested by council to make sure they graded every single road before freeze up.
Okay, and pulling gravel off shoulders before freeze up, which could happen tomorrow.
It's been
There's some
discussed.
roads have lots of gravel sitting on the shoulder, nothing on the road. If it's there the first time the wind blows out, you know where it's going. You can kiss it all goodbye, thousands of bucks. Might as well get it up to the middle and make some use of it.
Mhm.
Also, grading on calcium spots. When it's wet, I don't know, I haven't ran a grader for a few years now, but when it's wet, if you pull up both sides and tight blade it into the center, you rejuvenate that calcium. Nobody complains about it. But if you just leave it, the calcium holds the moisture and you hammer that road out. So, that was just a thought. That was all the questions I had. Mainly, I really wanted to make sure we were gonna have some operators for winter. Because none of us have a clue what's up for some things.
It's high on our mind also.
Okay?
And I can assure you that many, many times we have discussed the speed at which we're visiting each road.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. It's good to see you. Meredith, we'll wish you a good night as well.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
So we'll head to 10.1. Be it resolved that pursuant to section 1523 of the Municipal Act, Council shall meet as a committee of the whole to close the meeting and continue discussions in camera regarding personnel matters and contract negotiations. Is there a mover for the resolution? Councillor Burick. Someone to second the resolution? Councillor Blosha. Any discussion? Call the question. Those in favour? That is carried. We'll move to section 10.4 on the agenda. Does anyone have a resolution they wish to present coming out of the in-camera discussions? Seeing nothing, we'll call for notices of motion. Is anybody presenting a notice of motion tonight? Still hearing nothing, we'll move to section 12. Be it resolved, this meeting shall now adjourn at 9:58 p.m.
Oh, you're kinda,
And the next meeting is Tuesday, November,
10. No,
no,
11 to
13?
Saturday. 11 to
14.
Saturday.
14.
14?
November 14th at 7 p.m. Is there a mover? Councillor Blosha, someone to second the resolution. Councillor Burick, any discussion? Call the question, those in favor? That's carried.
There you go.